Welcome back to Reusable Space Program as we launch a craft at the start of this episode. This is our Muna tanker. It's very much like the tanker you've seen before, and it's going to go to the moon and land. So let's get on. So this is going to be our surface to orbit tanker. The idea of this craft is that it is going to go to the moon, and its job will be to go from the surface of the moon into lunar orbit and back down again. It is going to carry our material from the surface up. To do this, it's basically a modified version of our tanker from the last episode. We've stuck an extra pair of engines on, so it's got 4 engines for that extra thrust to getting off the moon because it needs it. It's got some landing legs, and it's just basically the same craft other than that. So we've put a little bit of extra weight in. We could just have used this for everything, but that extra weight of engines and everything has an impact. So we get up into suborbital hop position. We start to burn our nuclear engines, and we just, because this craft is heavier and it's got more fuel on board than the previous one, it starts to dip back down in the atmosphere. Not great. So we start to point upwards and fire those nuclear engines, just trying to get the periaps just out or into the upper atmosphere. And we just fire away, and we dip down to about 55 kilometers, 52 I think, 52 kilometers, and we start to go back up again. So this is very much like Centaur, or an extreme Centaur actually. So Centaur tends to used to drop as it was getting towards its end of its burn, and then its thrust to weight ratio would allow it to continue on. So it would overshoot to start with. So anyway, we get to a point now where we've gone through the atmosphere, we burn and we circularize, and you'll notice I didn't pull the solar panels in. Probably should have, because that could have gone horribly wrong, and the feet as well. But we get into an orbit, and then it's literally just going to be a case of let's send it to the moon. Let's just get it out there. So there we go. No time at all. We're just going to send it straight out there. You'll see we've got some clocks building up on the left hand side in Kerbal alarm clock, because this episode is a busy one. I'm probably going to lose track of where I am, because actually putting this video together was difficult enough. So around the moon, while we're waiting for the tanker to arrive, we're going to start playing with our comms system. We're going to try and slot in these comms sort of changes whilst our other craft are flying around. We've got Cargo 4 and that Muna tanker coming into the sphere of influence of the moon soon, so we have to be aware of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the first of our comms craft, and we're going to actually put them into an orbit. We're going to aim for a 4-hour orbit. It would be nice if it was circular, but my key is its actual orbital period, because as long as I put the crafts in the same orbital period, we should have decent coverage of the planet. If they're evenly spaced, they'll keep that spacing. I have 4. I'm going to work, I think, with 3, and maybe have a spare, but we'll see how it goes, because this is very sort of playing it by ear. So there we go. We do our burn, position it nicely. We're going to put it so that its solar panels can get some sunlight out. There we go. And on to the next step, I think. So we've got cargo coming in. Cargo 4 is coming into the sphere of influence. It is going to just move forward, and then we've got the Muna tanker coming in as well. So for both of those, we're going to mark off when they get to periaps. So that's our timer. We're going to jump forward a bit to Cargo 4 at periaps, and it's going to do its capture burn, and we're just going to put it into a loose orbit. Okay, we don't want to refine it just yet, because we're jumping backwards and forwards, and we just want to take our time with it. So there we go. We've got it in the correct orbit, and we've targeted the space station so that we can then correct its inclination. But we're not going to do that right now. We're going to actually put a marker in for when we're going to do that, because we want to do it nice far out. So we're going to put an alarm clock for that, and then we're going to jump back again, and we're going to look at another Mooncom craft. This is Mooncom 1B, and this one we're not going to put into its final orbit. So we've got one in its final orbit. This one we're not going to, because its periaps is actually too low. So the Mooncom craft have got a much higher orbit than our station and everything else, so that they cover everything. This one's periaps is a little bit too low for my liking, so it's going to need modified. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to circularize the orbit a little bit, bring it down, but we're going to leave ourselves a bit of space to mess around with it, and maybe try and refine it a little bit. because this one may become my spare. We can put 3 around the Mun easily at this altitude and cover the whole area, and we'll always have signal. 4 would be potentially overkill. We've put an extra one in there just in case anything went wrong, because it's always good to do that. And you can see that periaps there. We're going to put a marker in for us actually correcting the periaps, and we'll try and fit that in later. Right, what's next? There's so much going on now. I think we're going to look at the fuel tanker, do we? Yeah, so we've got the Mun tanker coming in. So the Mun tanker's coming in. It's going to do its capture burn, which is great because, easy to do. And then we're going to do exactly what we did with Cargo 4. We're going to mark up its inclination change, so it's going to be on the same inclination as the station. We're just trying to get everything lined up right now so we can start to bring things in and get them all docked together and put them where they need to be. So we're just going to now refine that original craft. We're just going to position it correctly, make it so it's nice. We're going to just try and balance out its orbit. You can see we're facing in an odd position. There we go. Just doing that little burn. So we've got another one of those just going to be circularized nicely. Well done. Brilliant. Set it to a 4-hour period. Then we're going to jump back in a second just to get that ready, get it sorted. All right, and there we go. We're going to jump back again to Muncom 1B, and we're going to sort out its periaps. So we're going to bring that up a little bit. So you can see we're burning prograde now. We're bringing the periaps up. Yeah, there was a lot of jumping around. You can see in the clock on the left-hand corner, there was a lot of jumping around here. So we've done that. Right, what's next? I think it's time for the fuel tanker. Yeah, the fuel tanker definitely needs to be done now. So this is going to be its plane change. So we caught this previously. Now it's going to do its plane change. So we've got this and the cargo and the other Mun tanker to actually do these plane changes. And these are pretty cheap because we've put them into quite high orbits, highly elliptical orbits as well, which means that we can actually we can do these cheaply as far out as possible when it's going nice and slow and it's very little any NEG required, very little delta V. So there we go. 2 engines fire away, nice and easy, done. It's sorted. So then we're going to put a marker in for its periaps so we can put it into a parking orbit. And we're just going to run through and get that done because we could just do that quickly. It was on its way to that periap, so it is now going to be into a circular orbit. Right. Ooh. There we go. So that's done. Right, next one. The Muncom 1D needs its orbit fixed, I think. So we're going to jump to Muncom 1D. Yep, let's do that. Okay. So, Muncom 1D. Where are we? There we are. So, we're going to just sort you out. You're going to need to just be circularized and your orbit be refined a little bit. So again, this is going to be one of our 3 that are going to be floating around trying to sort stuff out. There's a lot of this. This is this section I've cut down as much as possible, but there's just so much just moving around of things here. And this will actually give us pretty much an active communication system. You can see we've got 3 of the satellites there equidistantly positioned around the orbit. Our Muncom 1B is actually going to be our spare. So it'll just sit on orbit, and I may introduce it later depending upon how the others do, whether this spacing stays. Sometimes you need to mess around with it. So, now it's time for the Mun tanker to do its inclination change. It's very much like its brother, which was earlier on. And again, nice and far out, 4 engines, really quick. There we go. There's a lot of fuel left on this thing. So we've actually delivered some fuel to the Mun that we can use for actually landing all of our stuff, which is good. Remember, this craft is also going to need fuel to land itself. So, Cargo 4 is now going to do its inclination change, although it actually went into past its periaps before the Mun tanker. Its inclination was different, so its actually inclination change was later, which is an interesting one. So it's done that. Then we're going to pull it around, and it's going to do its circularization first because we want to get that stuff right there. We're going to actually, no, we're not. We're going to circularize the Mun tanker first. Everything's all over the place. Mun tanker's going to circularize, right? Then we're going to do Cargo 4 because, so we've currently got 3 craft that have just been circularizing. We've got the comm system going on. There's so much stuff going on. So, Mun tanker is now circularized, so it's in its little outer marker parking orbit. You see we've got this little outer orbit now around the outside of the station's orbit where we're going to just park these things that come in from Kerbin. We're going to do the same thing right now with Cargo 4 and its big cargo transported unit. There we go. Down it goes. And the idea is if we put all these craft outside of the marker of the station, then anything that comes up from the surface will be on the inside of the station. Anyway, while that's going on, the survey's continued. They're having a little journey. Our initial site looks as though it might not be perfect, but we might have to give it a go because these guys are just taking a long time and they're not finding anything particularly of interest, to be honest. We've had a giant crater. We were looking for some land with a lot of ore, but they haven't found a vast increase. So we like the site we started with. We're going to land around there. It all seems decent. So what we're going to do, tell you what, let's get this cargo 4 to the station. I'm sure there's a get it to the chopper from Schwarzenegger or something in that one. So cargo 4 is going to go to the station because it's got a very heavy load. We've got quite a lot of heavy loads, and while these craft are okay for transporting things like this in space, when we're getting near to a body like the moon, which has gravity, and it's not massive gravity, but it's gravity. Once we get near that, the thrust of these engines are not as much as I would like. So to be safe, we're going to need to maybe get some help with some of this equipment that we're going to take down. So there we go. We're gonna put the cargo 4 nicely, and then we're just gonna hold cargo 4. There we go. And then we're going to detach cargo 1 from the station, and cargo 1 is going to it's going to fall a bit. Yeah, this is one of the problems I have with the robotic parts, the stock robotic parts in KSP at the moment. They seem to occasionally just decide they want to disengage and go all floppy, and I'm not entirely. I've tried locking them, I've tried not locking them, I've tried powering them, not powering them. Every now and again, there's no rhyme or reason, they just do that. So we're going to bring cargo 1 in. It is unmanned, it's got a probe core on it, it's unmanned, or unkerbled. And it's docking at the top there. Now this doesn't look as though it's going to work, is it? So we're just going to take cargo 4. We're going to pull away. Just rub the station a little bit there. We didn't. Yeah, no, just a slight rub, just a minor rub. So cargo 4 is going to just reorientate itself. It's going to lift itself up, and it's going to sit on the top of the other unit. Yeah, that's right. We're going to use 2 of our cargo craft to actually land this thing because it's quite big. So there we go. There we go, we're moving in, and there we go. So we've got 2 of them. Now, yes, I know they're not perfectly the same craft and everything like that, but they have similar thrust, and I'm not entirely sure how Kerbal's calculating gravity, mass, weight distribution and stuff, but it does. Right, so we are going to basically burn retrograde so that we drop our orbit down. There we go. Drop our orbit down so that we're going to basically look as though we're going to hit the ground on the far edge of our big crater. We're going to move along, and we're going to use our original landing flag as our target. We're not going to hit it, we're going to aim near it. We could go further on. Originally I was going to use the survey craft as the target, but it is off doing discovery. So we're going to use the landing flag, the original flag anyway, as a landing target. Because it's a reasonably flat piece of ground, and you can see there the 4 engines burning away. Now, this was not as easy as it may look, and it was not as hard as it could have been, so it was a bit in the middle. And you see there we're actually, this is a very heavy load, so we are burning, and I probably could have done this more efficiently. In fact, I know I could have done this more efficiently, but yeah, we've got fuel. Hopefully we're going to start producing a lot of fuel, so our hopes are that wasting fuel right now is not a big problem. You can see we've still got a lot of fuel left in these craft. There is a big final burn to come. About, we're looking at about 300 meters per second once we get lower down. So you can see right now that we're coming in and we're going to be short of the marker, which isn't a problem because we know the whole area has the same sort of levels of ore. What it does do is it means that we actually can have a far marker that we can actually target with our future craft, which is not a problem. It would be really nice to have MechJeb and its landing autopilot right now, so I could choose a location and just put all the craft down there. But I do not have MechJeb. I am not installing MechJeb in this, no matter how much I really would like to have MechJeb installed in this right now, particularly for when we start going into planetary and things like that. So anyway, we're coming down, and this is not the most efficient of landings. I should not be fast forwarding at that point. I should, in my view, the best way to do a landing is once you start the engines, you don't stop them until you touch down, suicide burn style. So there we go. We're looking at a reasonably sort of flat area. when I was coming down, I was looking at the terrain, trying to identify sort of hills and things like that, so that we got at least a semi-flat landing area, because the surface is not flat. It is far from it, but it is not as bad as it could be. So there we go. We're firing our 4 engines. See the wobble on those on the Cargo 1 engines. Again, not a big fan of those motor systems not locking properly. If anybody knows of a little way of fixing that, that'd be really good, because it does do my head in at the moment. So we're coming down, and you notice we're sitting on it. This is not a healthy use of nuclear engines right now, just sitting on them like this. We're going in a bit fast, so we just pop the power up a bit, and boom, that's really a heavy landing, but it's fine. There's nobody on board, not a problem. So what is the next thing to do? Well, we've got to get these craft back into orbit, and then we've got to send some more stuff down. So which one are we going to start with? Who do we want to start with? We're very alone. I'm just at this point I was actually checking, because I know I've got a lot of fuel left. I could hop it, but I could also drive the craft. These units have wheels on them. So first one we send up is Cargo 4. I actually I may have lost a bit of the video of that, if I'm not entirely honest. So Cargo 4 went up, and it's very much a case of decouple, fire, go. So you didn't miss anything, and this is basically putting itself into orbit. There we go. Right, now you can see a proper one. So this one we decouple, we fire the engines. What I would actually say in future is I need to be more aware of what I'm doing. So for example, here I started turning over and I'm going north. I'm not entirely sure why I'm going north. I decided to head north. Yeah, I learned a lot, shall we say, doing this, because it's that whole what do you do first, what don't you do first. So instead of hopping it, what I decided to do was just travel around on my wheels. So you see, it's like a really bad train. So this is going to be traveling around, doing its stuff. It's going to try and find the flattest piece of land it can, and then we'll bring other things to that area. Again, nothing here is particularly flat. You can see on the nav ball that actually it could be worse. You know, the level of flatness is not too bad. Anyway, while that's doing its traveling, I'm going to say, from me until next time, have a great one.